Hey there, welcome to Friday. My name is Tom Carnell. This is Carnell Knowledge here on YouTube. Real quickly, I'm glad to see that you made it through the week. Nice job. Real quickly about me, I was a buyer for Tower Records for many years. I published and wrote a magazine called Carpet-Noctem back in the 90s. It was like a dark art journal. We featured a lot of really cool people. Managed to interview a lot of people. You can find 3 interview books on Amazon that collect a lot of those interviews. There's a massive Neil Gaiman interview. There's a Frank Miller interview. There's a bunch of Clive Barker interviews. That led me to writing for Fangoria and Dread Central for about 20 years, and now I'm an author that you can find my books on Amazon. A couple of words about this video. If you have something you want me to promote or talk about, you can email me at tomcarnell@gmail.com. And there, in the description of this video here, there is a synopsis of what we're about to go over, and there are also links to playlists here on YouTube that of all the records that I'll talk about at the tail end of all of this. Our format is to go through 5 movies, 5 books, 5 records, and just to give you some insight into some things that not only that I am listening and sort of entertaining myself with, but also things that are out there that some people don't talk about. A lot of the mainstream media, they have definite agendas on things that they're pushing you. I'm a big fan of things that are old. I think it's important to know where we came from and where, in order to track where we're going. So sometimes I'll talk about things like silent films and films from the 30s and 40s and books that are very old. I got a lot of those coming up. I've gone on kind of a jag of some super old stuff. But again, it's a way to try to impart to you all that it's a big world out there. There's a lot of stuff out there, and not all of it gets sort of filtered down in through shows like this. And so I'm hoping to change all that. So let's get started. We're going to start with some movies. First up, 1966. It's a Western called The Professionals. It's based on a book that I absolutely love by a guy named Frank O'Rourke. It was my entryway into the bibliography of Frank O'Rourke. The book is called A Mule for the Marquesa. I've kind of talked about it now and again through these shows. It was directed by Richard Brooks, who is like a legend in Hollywood. He directed things like In Cold Blood, Elmer Gantry, Looking for Mr. Goodbar, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. You go through his IMDb and it's staggering. Just as staggering as this cast list: Burt Lancaster, Lee Marvin, Claudia Cardinale, the great Woody Strode, Jack Palance, Robert Ryan, Ralph Bellamy. It's an amazing film, and in the annals of Westerns, not a lot of people talk about it. It's about an arrogant Texas millionaire who hires a bunch of guys to go after his kidnapped wife, who is in the hands of a notorious Mexican bandit. It is essentially a men on a mission film where there's an assignment, they head off, and laughs and action ensue. This film is gritty. It earned 3 Oscar nominations. Everyone in the film did their own stunts, which is pretty amazing, especially given the time. Again, 1966. And Woody Strode is an unsung hero in this. He was a black actor who didn't get a lot of notoriety. His name doesn't get thrown around a lot. But this guy, I call people like this movie helper. Like, you add him to anything, and it's automatically better. A side note that I learned in my little research here for this show, Richard Farnsworth, who is the main actor in David Lynch's A Straight Story, he taught Woody Strode how to use a bow and arrow. It's a great film. It's a great story. It differs from O'Rourke's book, but it's a little of this, a little of that. There's some great stuff in this film. I highly recommend it. If you ever see it anywhere, automatically add it to your watch list. After that, 1975, This was a film directed by the actor Jeff Starrett, who played Galt in First Blood. He was like the jerk cop. He also directed a classic of cinema, Cleopatra Jones. This film is called Race with the Devil. Stars Peter Fonda, Warren Oates, Loretta Swit, and Laura Parker, who played, that's my dog sneezing, who played Laura Parker, who played Angelique in the Dark Shadows series. It's about two couples that are vacationing in an RV across Texas. One night they're out just having dinner and kind of wandering around, and the two men see a group across a river and around a fire who comes to find out are Satanists. They kill a person, and they see Peter Fonda and Warren Oates, and then a giant chase ensues. It was back in the 70s, there was a thing that was referred to as satanic panic, where the devil was guilty of everything. There lots of possession films, lots of culty films. You would watch things like Phil Donahue and Jesse Raphael, and they'd always have like, oh, I was a teenage Satanist and da 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 da. This is part of all that. This film is very watchable. It moves quickly. Everyone in it is great. If I were to synopsize it or like elevator pitch it, I would say Deliverance meets Duel, Steven Spielberg's film. It's kind of a road picture where once the murder takes place and they're on the road, it's full on, full throttle. Don't know who to trust. It's a great film. I highly recommend it. It's one of those things that, as I look back on my life of cinema watching, which is pretty prodigious, it's always a high point. Whenever I see it on a streaming service, I automatically add it to rewatch it. It's a great film. After that, 1966. This is a film called Island of Terror. This is available on Tubi. Directed by Terence Fisher, who directed a lot of the classic Hammer films. If you think of a Hammer film, odds are Terence Fisher had something to do with it. Stars Peter Cushing and Edward Judd. Has to do with an isolated island community that is threatened by tentacled silicates which liquefy and digest bone and tissue. They're like kind of puddles, if you will, with a tentacled arm that come out that suck the calcium and bone from their victims. The creature reminded me a lot of the monster in an Italian film called Caltiki the Immortal. Riccardo Freda, who is a great Italian director, directed it. There are rumors that Mario Bava has something to do with that as kind of a co-director. This film kind of reminds me of the Quatermass films, if you've ever seen the Quatermass films. It's mildly silly, a little stage-bound, but it's effective. It's a film I saw on Creature Features with Bob Wilkins back when I was a kid. Scared the bejesus out of me, and now I watch it with a lot of fondness. Again, it's on Tubi, Island of Terror. Check it out. After that, let's see. Our last one, or our second to last one, 1963. This is also on Tubi. This is a completely different than what I've been talking about before. This is a great film called Lilies of the Field, directed by Ralph Nelson, who directed things like Charlie, which is the cinematic version of the book Flowers for Algernon. And he also directed a version of the classic Requiem for a Heavyweight, this one with Anthony Quinn. This film stars Sidney Poitier and Lila Scott. It's a black and white film. It has to do with a traveling handyman who stops for water at a convent and gets drafted by the Mother Superior into making as she says, a chapel. Poitier won a Best Actor Oscar for this. It's a great film, very heart-touching. It's perfect for the family. Your parents probably know this film, and they love this film. I learned that it was shot on Linda Ronstadt's father's farm, which is kind of wild. Not only is it heartwarming and just lovely, it was an important film because it featured, especially for the time, it was in fact banned by South Africa, the South African Film Commission, for its depiction of a black man with agency interacting with white women, and that was a thing back in the day, if you can believe it. It's a great film. It's one of the classic films of all time, and again, it's available on Tubi. Lilies of the Field, terrific, absolutely terrific. And then our final film, 1973, I think this is available on the Criterion channel. It's a classic crime thriller called The Friends of Eddie Coyle. It's directed by Peter Yates, who did things like Breaking Away, Crawl. He directed the great Steve McQueen film Bullet. He did The Hot Rock. And he also did a classic comedy called Mother Jugs and Speed. It stars Robert Mitchum, Peter Boyle, and Richard Jordan. The synopsis is as follows. After his last crime has him looking at a long prison sentence for repeat offenses, a low-level Boston gangster decides to snitch on his friends to avoid jail time. It's hard-boiled. It's action-packed. It's a 70s crime film, so there's not a lot of quick cutting, and there's not a lot of, fancy schmancy stuff. Again, very, very gritty. This is one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite films. In fact, there's a character in this film whose name you might recognize, and that is Jackie Brown, that he used for the film that he did. It's gritty, it's bleak, it's realistic, and it's an exceptional 70s crime drama. Let's see, moving on to books. A bunch of stuff here. I'm still reading Jim Thompson's Getaway. I'm just about to finish it. I am happy with it. I'm not overjoyed with it. I expected something far better and far different, which I guess is my fault. It is worth reading. I think all of Jim Thompson's books are worth reading, but I just wanted a little more. And again, that's probably my fault, but it was hot off the heels of the Ron Curry book I just read, the Savage and Ignoble Death of Babs Dion, that I wanted that, but I didn't get that, but that's okay. It's still a great book. After that, let's see, Charles Beaumont, the great Charles Beaumont, was a guy who wrote a lot of the stories that a lot of the Outer Limits and Twilight Zone episodes were based on. This is the thing called the Carnival. It's 26 stories. It's available from Subterranean Press. There's an intro by the always fantastic David J. Scow. This was a book that, again, because of my preconceptions, I expected something more. The stories are fine. The writing is terrific. But again, it's an anthology, so you kind of always get 6 of these, half dozen of the other, right? You get certain things that are terrific, some things that are sort of middle of the road, and some things that should probably have been left out. It's fine. I got it on my Kindle for like $4. And I think everyone should read Beaumont, just like they should read, Matheson and those people of his era, William F. Nolan, that kind of thing. It's worth reading. Next up, this is a book by it's translated by Mario Martin-Merino. It's called The Travels of Ibn Fadlan. The story is about a 10th century. Back in the 10th century, the king of the Bulgars requested an envoy from the Caliph al-Muqtadir for religious guidance. At the time, the area was kind of shifting into to be Muslim, and he wanted help, and so this envoy, Ibn Fadlan, is sent from Arabia to the Volga, Bulgaria. It's a distance of about 2,500 miles, and this is kind of his diary, kind of travelogue, for want of a better word. This was the tale that was used, this and the tale of Beowulf, the classic tale of Beowulf, was used as a basis for Michael Crichton's book, Eaters of the Dead, which was then filmed years later by John McTiernan as The 13th Warrior. The idea of this literal fish out of water, this Arab man hooking up with Vikings and being led across in search of this. They encountered this sort of, they call it a fire dragon, and it is more alike to Beowulf, Grendel, not Beowulf, sorry, Grendel and his mother and the whole clan there. It's a fine book. I think Eaters of the Dead is better because it's more cinematic and it's more designed to be a story. This is more of a travelogue and it's written, hundreds of years ago. But as a fan of Eaters of the Dead, I was happy to get a little more insight into this. It's good stuff. Next up, Dennis Etchison edited this book called The Museum of Horrors. It's a 2001 anthology that was commissioned by the Horror Writers of America. Included in here are stories by Joyce Carol Oates, Peter Straub, Ramsey Campbell, Peter Atkins, who did the screenplay for Hellraiser, Richard Lehman, and the aforementioned William F. Nolan. It's great stuff. Again, anthologies are always going to be this way. Some good, some middle of the road, and some not so good. For the most part, this was fine. The stories aren't terribly long. They move fairly quickly. I got it in a used bookstore for a couple of bucks, so no harm, no foul. But it was fine. And then finally, so there's a guy named Rory Miller who is he writes a lot of martial arts books. He writes a lot of books on violence. He was a prison guard and this kind of thing. And the book I'm talking about specifically is called Violence, A Writer's Guide. It's a 2013 book that it is not so much addressing the writing, but more addressing violence and how it happens in the real world. A lot of his books do that, but he takes you through what he calls the interview. It's a lot of what he also calls the monkey dance. It's that pushing and shoving and talking shit through how these things usually happen. It's good for people who are writing violence. It's good for people who want to understand violence. It changes your perspective because you realize that fighting and all of that kind of stuff isn't what you think it is. So at every step, he'll give you like, this is how it could go, and this is how it could not go, and this is how you can get out of that. So I recommend all of Rory Miller's books. His politics are a little about what you'd expect from a guy who used to be a prison guard, but the books are fantastic, and I've read them all, and I highly recommend them, especially, again, if the subject matter interests you, this is the guy, a fine place to start. Let's see, moving on to records. We're making good time this time. Our first record is from 2018. It's by Jeff Goldblum and the Mildred and Snitzer Orchestra. It's called the Capitol Studios Session. Yes, I'm talking about that Jeff Goldblum, who knew he was an accomplished jazz pianist. The band is fantastic. His choice of music is fantastic. He does a cover of a Miles Davis song here that is one of the best I've ever heard. Along the way, he has guests come on: Haley Reinhart, Sarah Silverman, the vocalist Imelda May, and trumpeter Till Bronner. This is a jaw-dropping record, not only because it's from someone you didn't expect it to be, but just as a standalone record, it's fantastic. It's old school kind of loungy jazz, but again, I highly recommend this one. Let's see. Next up, 1973. So there was a guy back then that they used to call the American Beatle. He was an American singer-songwriter named Harry Nilsson. He had hits. If you've ever heard the song "Without You" or "Put the Lime in the Coconut," or he did a version of "Everybody's Talking" from Midnight Cowboy. He also did the score to a TV show special called The Point. It was a children's story. There was a famous song from that called "Me and My Arrow." He pioneered the art of vocal overdubbing. Terrific. So he's doing all these hits, and his record company is very, very happy because he's making him a big bag of money. And he decides he wants to do something that he's calling a little touch of SCHMILSSON in the night. It was recorded live. In the links to the description, I have a link to a YouTube version of the entire special. It was recorded at the BBC TV Theatre with Frank Sinatra's arranger, Gordon Jenkins. It's a collection of like standards, and it's fantastic. I had only known Harry Nilsson from these hits and his relationship with like Randy Newman and that kind of thing. But this is great. This is fantastic. Much like the Jeff Goldblum stuff, these are standards and these are songs that you will readily know. And again, you can put this on and even your parents will love it. Just fantastic. Highly recommended, as is, I think, all of his records. But this one specifically, I think, it really blew me away. Up next, 2025. This was a compilation called My Music Sessions Live. It's by an artist named, a vocalist named Jerry Butler. He was an American soul singer. He led the Impressions, if that rings a bell for anyone. This is a deep and soulful record. It's a great collection of songs. He's got a voice that's super, super rich. Terrific, just terrific. This reminded me of things like the Friends of Distinction, the Dramatics, Joe Simon, and Garland Green, who just recently passed, I read. I highly recommend this, especially if you like soulful singers. There's a little bit of stage banter that I could kind of do without, but it's terrific. Jerry Butler, My Music Sessions Live. Again, link in the description. A couple more and then we'll get out of here. 2004, a band released their debut record. They're from Oslo, Norway. They're called Electrocutango. The album is called Felino. It's based on Henry Ibsen's play Ghosts. This is very, very flamenco, very tango oriented. Reminded me of things like Electro Dub Lounge, Tanghetto, the Tango Project, Trio Garufa, and the Gotan Project. This is a great record. Who knew that every time I hear a tango record, I absolutely love it. It's got such a cool, like, early morning vibe to it that I highly recommend this kind of thing. Gotan Project, there's a bunch of those bands that are coming out now, and they're doing just fantastic stuff. And then finally, 2010, the group is called Moshang, aka Jean-Marie. He's from Cape Town, South Africa. He's relocated to Taichung, Taiwan. The record is called Further East. This is melodic chill for music for getting ready to go out, music for going out, music for relaxing, having some wine late at night. It's great stuff. Trip hop, but cool. It reminded me of bands like Green Empathy, if we're familiar with those guys. It's good stuff. I later took a dive into some of his other records, and all of his other records are equally fantastic. Again, go to the description, click on the link, go to the playlist, and listen for yourself. Don't just accept my word for it. And that's going to do it. The other thing I would mention is I've been previewing some of my books for the last couple of episodes. This is my second short story collection. It's called A String of Pearls. This has to do, again, a collection of short stories. A couple of the highlights in here. There's a story called Sword of St. Michael. it introduces an ongoing character of mine named Father James Thorpe. Originally, that story was called Jean-Claude Van Damme Exorcist. So it's like that. It's action-packed, has to do with the possession of a child that he goes in and exorcises. And there you have it. There's also a story in here called Song of a Dragon that I don't want to give too much away, but imagine a beloved children's show that takes place on an island with a dragon and a witch and that kind of a thing, but set in ancient Japan. I took something kind of silly and transposed it to a very real situation in history and took all of those rules and applied them to this admittedly silly concept. I love the story. It goes on. My wife was the one that pitched the idea to me, and that always makes it special. That's going to do it. That's a week. Not bad. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to grow the channel. Please comment. Anything you comment about, I will take seriously. I will take it to heart. I will answer it if it's a question. And if you have something that you don't want to talk about publicly, again, email me at tomcarnell@gmail.com. So that's going to do it. Have a good weekend. We'll see you on Monday with a whole batch of other stuff.